Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Today we begin a new chapter, chapter 5, although not with a theme that's totally new because Jeremiah is continuing his work of trying to help the people understand that their situation is very, very serious. They're just not taking it seriously, despite all of his efforts in the previous chapters, despite his ministry. And so this chapter is going to be focusing once again on trying to help the people understand that their situation is very precarious and very much in rebellion against God. Let's go ahead and read this verse in Hebrew as we get started. Shotetu bechutzot Yerushalayim, ur'u na, ud'u, uvakshu, bichovoteha, im timtsu ish, im yesh ose mishpat, mivakesh amunah, va'eslach la. Well, what do we have here? Shotetu. Well, this is going to be an imperative. So it's going to be an imperative with an u ending on it. It's going to be a 2MP. And this is actually a poel, P-O-L, polel, from a hollow verb, shoot, which goes like this, shoot. And this verb means to go, to rove about, sort of go back and forth. So it has kind of a back and forth sort of idea to it, to wander about. So go about in chutzot. So what do we have here? This is a plural construct. You see the ending here. I think it's actually masculine, even though it has a feminine type of ending on it. From chutz, usually chutz like this. From chutz, which means a street. So this is construct with Jerusalem. So go about in the streets of Jerusalem, and we say the, even though you don't have the article here, it's in construct with a proper noun. So it's in the streets of Jerusalem. And see. So what do we have here? Well, once again, we have an imperative, just like we have over here, an imperative, second masculine plural with this u ending on it. This time it's from the verb ra'ah, with a hey, which drops out, and three hey verbs very frequently do that. And see, therefore, or look, therefore, so go about and look and know. This time it's, once again, same thing, imperative 2MP, but from the verb yada. So this time it's not the hey that's dropped off the end, it's a yod that's dropped off the beginning of it, but it's the same thing. It's still a cow, and these are all cows. This is a polel over here, but this is a cow here. This is a cow here as well. And know, or try and discover, is the other idea. Uvakshu, once again, an imperative, second masculine plural with this u ending on it. These vowels are just conjunctive. All the vowels that you see here are just conjunctive. So this is a 2MP imperative, but this time this one's a PL from bakash. You see the patak here. You don't have the doubling, which usually you do have a strong dagesh here, and this time we don't have it. Not sure exactly why. It's an anomaly that occasionally shows up in certain forms. But it's a PL, and this means to seek. So, and seek in the places. Now, Rehobotecha, it's actually in her places. Rehoboth, actually we have that, the city Rehoboth, New Mexico, because it's the wide places. And Rehob, in the singular, Rehob like this, means an open place, a plaza, something like that. In this case, it's plural construct with the yod, and then the suffix, 3FS suffix, referring to the city of Jerusalem. And seek in her plazas, in her open places. Well, what are you seeking for? Well, you're seeking to see if you will find. Now, here we just have an imperfect. This is an imperfect. It's going to be a 2MP. This is just a cow from the verb matzah, meaning to find. See if you will find a man. Well, what kind of a man? Well, if there's a particle of existence. If there is one doing, so this is sort of a substantized participle here. You see the participle with the O vowel, so we know it's going to be masculine singular participle in this case. It's cow from our verb asa, meaning to make or do. So see if there is one doing, or a man who does or who practices mishpat, justice, or righteousness. Justice would be a better word for it here. Who is seeking, now once again we have a participle, just like over here, participle, masculine, singular, but this time it's a PL participle with the main prefix with a schwa. This time you do have the dagesh and the kov and a pathic underneath. So if there's one who seeks for truth, amunah, meaning truth or fidelity here. And if you can find one who practices righteousness or justice and who is seeking for truth, this is almost consequential. Then I will forgive. So this is an imperfect, and it's a first common singular, kal, from the verb salak, which means to forgive or to pardon, and it tends to take its, or it frequently takes its direct object with a lameth, so with the suffix here, which is a 3fs suffix referring back to the city. And I will forgive literally to her, I will forgive her. Now this sounds very familiar, doesn't it, this kind of language? It almost sounds like the Genesis 18 passage where Abraham is sort of bartering with God if God can find 10, or actually starting with 50 and then working his way down to 10 people within the city of Sodom, then he will spare the city. And now here the Lord is looking for just any one man who is willing to practice righteousness and justice and who is seeking for truth. It reminds us a little bit of Diogenes as well, if you know the Greek story, from the well-known speaker Diogenes in the 4th century BC, which would have been after Jeremiah's time. Makes you wonder if Diogenes got the idea perhaps from Jeremiah or from this text. But in any case, the Lord is saying, is there truly one who is seeking righteousness and truth in the city of Jerusalem? Well, let's hide our work here and squeeze our text down a little bit and look at a couple of translations. First of all, in the ESV, run to and fro, for shutu is here, through the streets of Jerusalem. Look and take note. Look therefore, I pray, and know, take note, that's a good translation for know. Search her squares, so search her open places, plazas, to see if you can find a man, one who does justice, one practicing justice, and one seeking truth, that I may pardon her. A pretty straightforward translation. And then in the New Living Translation, which is much more of a paraphrase, but it does pretty well here. Run up and down every street in Jerusalem. So let's just develop this idea out a little bit. Says the Lord, look high and low. Look and seek out and know. Search throughout the city. Search in her plazas, in her places, in her squares. If you can find even one just and honest person. So they've kind of put these two together. One person who does justice and who seeks truth, one just and honest person. And if you can find that kind of person, then I will not destroy the city. I will forgive the city. So they've kind of transposed pardon into not destroy, which goes along with it as well. But it is a little more of a paraphrase rather than a strict translation. Well, we wonder, can we find such a person? And we will discover what Jeremiah is going to do and the results of his search in the following verses. So check back with us soon for our next study in the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.